Problem analysis. This is a presentation on the understanding of the steps of designing the project by starting with the concept of problem analysis. The analysis that seeks to understand the causes and effects of a problem in order to develop a solution. And for that, we use a tool that is called the problem tree. The problem tree helps us first, once we have identified a specific problem, we want to understand the causes for that problem. One of the techniques that we use is we ask the question why we have this problem. And in that exercise, when you have the team, when you have a group of people together and designing the project, out of that comes information that helps us understand why we have that problem. What are the causes for that problem? We can even go to a second level and we ask the question why again. In each one of those causes, we're going to find another set of causes that help us understand in more detail why we have that problem. And the idea is that once we start doing that process, we start getting to the root causes of the problem, which is easier for us to generate the type of actions and solutions. The other element in the problem tree is the effects. So they are also important because once we identify the problem, we need to know what are the consequences of that problem. What is the problem creating situations? So out of that, we then start identifying the different effects of that. And at that level, we can also go to another level, identify a new level of effects that are happening. And in that process, we start getting a better idea about the problem, its causes and its effects. Why is that important? Because the problem tree, when it's completed, once we have its focal problem, identify the effects and the causes, we can then use the process of transformation, using that information to create the objective tree, which is the problem converts into a desired result in an objective. And in order to achieve that objective or that result, we're going to define the means, and then we're going to also understand its ends. So we are transforming a problem into an objective based on the analysis that we did. Here's a view of the concept of the problem tree with our problem, its effects, and its various causes. And it's called problem tree because it resembles a little bit of a tree. So we have all the roots here where we have the causes, the trunk will be the problem, and the branches of the tree will be the effects. So we have that concept of understanding the different elements of the problem by breaking down into those key components. Now, depending on the size and complexity of the project, your problem tree can have many branches and it can go all the way down until you identify the root causes and you have a very good understanding of its effects. The larger the problem, the more complex the situation is, you might have different levels. Once we have that, the step to convert the problem tree into an objective tree is practically change how we define the problem into an action, into a result. So now our problem is now a result, an intended objective, and then we identify the type of actions that we need to take in order to make that project or that objective achievable. So we design the activities, we design what will be the outputs, and then how each one of these will contribute to the solution. The same way, we can also look at the intended result and the different results that that solution will generate in the area where we want the project to happen. So our objective tree becomes now the basis for our design. We look at it in terms of creating that objective, we'll have the means, and we'll understand its ends. Again, that objective tree can also have a different level of detail based on the different areas that we want to incorporate our solutions. Some consideration when selecting project objectives, and I think they're important. One is that probability that they will occur. We're not trying to do something that's going to be very hard to achieve. We also take consideration the cost, because there's also going to be a limit in what we can get in funding to solve that problem. Risk, also another consideration, that they will create the higher the risk and the higher the chances that the project might have a problem. Then the situation of how sustainable is the solution after the project completes, and what type of support or partnership we need to achieve that objective. Options analysis is the final process in which the organization might decide not to tackle all the problems that are listed. It is a selective analysis of the objectives based on the expertise of the organization, the amount of risk, and the amount of funding. What it means that when we look at all those actions that we can make on the project, and we start having a complete list of everything that we can do to solve that problem, there are going to be some that, based on this analysis, we might decide not to do them. So eventually, what we have is just a set of activities and actions that the project seems that they can do based on the resources and expertise and the amount of risk. Looking at it in another way is that the project, based on the organization, based on its experience and the resources, the skills, might decide that certain areas of the solution might not be suitable for what they're trying to do, and just concentrate on these areas where they have the expertise or the funding. This is called also the strategy of intervention, in which the organization may select the area that they want to work and select the areas they decide not to do it. Will the project be complete without having those areas? That is the assessment that they need to make. That the strategy at that moment needs to make an assessment of what the project, what the organization is capable of doing it within the certain constraints they might have. But eventually, these could be elements that might go to another project or another organization that may have the skills, the capacity, and the funding to do it. And that's the elements that are important to understand, that maybe through partnerships or looking through funding to other areas, you can get a different project that might tackle those problems if they are important for the problem. But in most cases, this strategy of intervention help us understand that in order for us to solve this project, we can concentrate on this area that will give us the enough area of work that will create elements to be a solution that can all be sustainable, that can be achievable, and that can create the desired results that are designed at the beginning. Finally, one of the elements that are important for us to keep in mind is that when we are selecting and drafting our project objectives, have a clear understanding of the acronym called SMART, that all our objectives have to be simple enough so that people understandable, they are measurable so that we can track their progress, that we can achieve them, they are not impossible to do it, they are relevant to the problem we're trying to solve, and that we can do it in a time that will provide the benefits that are needed in order to solve that problem.